Starting a band always seems so hard to me. And so today I'm going to be talking to somebody who has most of the answers. Today I'm going to be talking to Andy Fleming, who is one of the leading singers of the band Brother Trucker. Sadly enough, we couldn't get Mike Fitzpatrick to come on, but at least we got Andy. And anyways, we're going to be talking about what's his life been like since he started. What's his life with his family, and how's that all affected him? I'm Ronick, and enjoy.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Good. So, nice to meet you. My parents said a good word about you, so thought you would be interesting for an episode.
Right on. I've heard good things about you from our mutual friend Bill Rosner,
Oh, yes.
and I'm a big fan of your folks too. So
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So, before we start, you're in a band, Brother Trucker. Right.
Yep.
Yeah. What's that like? How did that start?
that started like we joke that we say it started in second grade because I've known the guy that's in the band with me since second grade. So we've always his name's Mike Fitzpatrick, and so we've kind of always hung out together. And when we first started playing guitars together, like in junior high and stuff, we kind of called ourselves a band a little bit. But officially, we released our full length CD on a label, Trailer Records, in 2000. So we've been going for a while now, and it's cool. It's the coolest thing I've ever gotten to do in my life, I think.
Growing up, what was your childhood like?
Childhood was pretty straightforward. Grew up in Davenport, Iowa, right next to the Mississippi Valley Fairgrounds, and real Midwestern upbringing. Nothing too out of the ordinary, but probably not too different from what you've experienced, just at a different time.
Yeah. Anything else? Like what made your in childhood, pop? I don't know. Tell me about yourself.
Let me think. I would say I was the youngest of like three siblings that had a pretty good influence on me too. I rated their music collection and their movie collection, so a lot of my art was informed by them and trying to show them what was cool as the little brother that was always around. I wanted to impress them with what I was into, so I ended up getting pretty heavily into it more than they did. It's like they might have showed me the Rolling Stones, but I took it up and, well, who influenced the Rolling Stones? Because I really got into music. So then I got into blues. I really got into the guys that influenced the influences. Kind of got a personality that way where I get into something obsessively. I really get hyper focused on it. And so I'm that way with a lot of art I like, a lot of music I like. And I've been that way since I was a little kid. I would be the type that would get a record and just wear it out, man. Just listen to it until I couldn't listen to it anymore.
I was told that you grew up in a military family.
Yeah. My dad was he was like career military. He was in it for like 28 years. So everybody in my family was born somewhere else in the world or in the country. I was born in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, and my brothers were born in New Jersey and New York. My sister was born in Heidelberg, Germany. She moved, I want to say, 25 times before she graduated high school. So being the oldest, she got to experience that military life more than I did. But we ended up moving to Iowa, and that's how I became out here in Iowa. That's how I became an Iowan.
You like Iowa so far?
I love Iowa. Yeah, it's it's all I know really, other than through my parents. And my mom and dad were from New York City. My mom was from the Bronx. My dad was from Brooklyn, and so it was kind of like I never really got to call myself an Iowan until I've had children here. I've had family here. It's what I know, and if I talk to people from other areas, my reference points and everything I know is as an Iowan. So I'm proud of our history of the state's progressive past that we used to have. We used to be a really progressive state, and that's something that I've always been proud to associate myself with here in Iowa.
How many places have you traveled since you were a kid?
Oh boy, Uh, I didn't get to move very many places at all compared to my siblings. My siblings moved all over the place. I was the youngest of the bunch, kind of surprised, if you will. And so my experiences traveling was nothing like theirs. But I remember life on military bases and, traveling. I'm not as traveled as I wish I was. I wish I've traveled more than I have, actually.
Or you want to travel more?
I think so. Yeah, definitely. There's I still I'm young at heart, so there's a lot of places I haven't been that I still like to see. So there's that. But being a musician, particularly in the Midwest, I've seen a lot of Iowa, so I get to I've done my share of being somewhere.
When going back to music, when was the first time you really experienced music? Like, when did you become interested in it?
I remember I have like really early memories of having music be something that really caught my attention when we first moved to Iowa. We lived right next door, as I said, to the Mississippi Valley Fairgrounds, and so this was like 1974. And my sister was a big Eric Clapton fan, and he just so happened to be playing like maybe a football fields away from our new house. Music that I was hearing in the house as just a little kid, toddler, was suddenly in my backyard really loud as the concert, if you will, and made a huge impression on me. I remember I listened to that whole show outside on the side of my house.
Is there what kind of genre is it? Because I've never heard of him. So.
He's I would say he's kind of what you would call classic rock dinosaur now. Guitar player, super great guitarist. He's kind of blues based. So I would say that would be. But back then, though, he was kind of like pop music almost, because there wasn't anything else other than that. He was kind of like the new music then.
Before the interview, I checked out a little bit of your band's music, and it was a little bit of country, more pop, a little pop, a little bit. Is that kind of why?
I listen. That's a weird thing. I listen to everything, and it doesn't really reflect what I listen to in the music that I play. The music I play has basically been what has been. Obviously, I like country music. I like rock and roll. I like blues. I like pop. I like all that stuff. But as far as like a vehicle for what I can do, I think of myself almost more of a storyteller than a musician. I'm not really a great musician by any stretch at all. I play with some really great musicians, but myself, I'm adequate enough to kind of communicate a story or a song idea. So that's kind of what I focus on. Country has always been really a good format for telling stories, as folk music's been a really good format for telling stories too. So that's probably why I gravitate towards that stuff. And plus, I only know really the 3 chords on a guitar enough to do it, so I'm limited by what I know.
What are all the instruments? Like, is it just singing? What are all the instruments you know how to play?
Oh boy, I play guitar primarily. I can probably get by a little bit with a harmonica. And I can accompany myself with a harmonica when I play. I wouldn't say I can play bass because I know bass players, but I know how to play around on a bass. I know how to, but that's about it, to be honest with you. I can't really put myself out there. I play some really great musicians, but harmonica, when I quit smoking cigarettes, that was probably the easiest way to pick up a new instrument for me.
Oh. You got inspired by listening, but like, when was the first time you got inspired to become like an actual musician?
I remember to be an actual musician. I mean, if there was a point, why did I do it? Because what was the point? I've been writing songs and playing them in front of friends, but it wasn't until one of the friends that I've been playing my songs in front of that actually worked at a bar said, "Hey, man, why don't you come and play for a half hour? Come play at the bar some night." I thought, I don't know if I could do that or not. And when you do it, and you have a response, and it feels like you make some kind of connection. It's pretty addictive. I can remember being in college. That's probably when it happened, because I really didn't have any sets of playing music at all. And it was when I was in college playing for friends, and then one of those friends happened to be booking a bar that he was a bartender at, and said, "Why don't you play some night?" And that set me off.
What was that like?
It was exciting. It was nerve-wracking. It was wanted to do it again as soon as it finished. I think I probably played 4 hours and repeated one of the sets completely in its entirety, but just to kind of have that connection and the feedback. It was exhilarating. It really set off all the right endorphins in my head to want to do it again.
Was this back in like the 90s, 2000s, or like what time period was this?
This would be like the very, very late 80s, 88, 89.
Okay, so like 80s, 90s, something like that?
Yep, exactly.
Was that like a slow thing at first, or after that did you just kind of pick up and like play music all around?
No, so kind of a slow thing, to be honest. I did it a few times that summer when I could, and then just got really obsessed with playing more. I had played guitar before that, but then seemed to have a little bit more of a purpose, so I started playing, all the time and writing. Not so much serious songs, but songs that we could kind of fill a set with. So it wasn't until I moved to Des Moines, I had worked in politics for a little bit, doing some grassroots organizing, and took a job in Des Moines, and then ended up moving to Des Moines to kind of follow that job a little bit. And I started still playing guitar and writing at that point, and I was playing some open mics. The first one I played was Java Joe's. There forever, and it just recently closed, unfortunately. But it was a really cool. When I first moved to Des Moines, there wasn't much else happening, and there was this coffee house at a Thursday night open mic. So that's where I started doing it again.
Is that kind of how you started your like music business before starting the band? You kind of built yourself up in like coffee shops and stuff, bars.
Yeah, basically. Whenever we could, I was just thinking about it when I was thinking we were going to chat this afternoon. Your dad kind of plays a little bit of a part in that.
Oh, he does.
One of the first bars I ever played in Des Moines was this really great place it was just right next to Java Joe's, in fact, called Sheffield's. And I used to see some of my favorite bands that were playing in Iowa at the time there, bands called like High and Lonesome, and I'd go to this place to see it. And one night, your dad's good friends from Fort Dodge, they were the Meerkats then. I'm almost positive they were the Meerkats then, but it was the Joel and I know you know these guys, but Brooke Hoover and some of these, I think they know your dad very well. Yeah, they were playing in town and very graciously allowed my at the time our band was so green, we weren't really good, but we had a lot of heart, and they were just the type of musicians that were, let's give these guys a shot, and they let us open up for them. So yeah, I always, your dad had a part to play in it.
When you started building a band, like what was that like? What was the story behind building their band? Could you like describe it to me?
Like it kind of goes back to that my best friend back in second grade. We had always played together, guitars, and he had moved away to Florida right after college. He and I were playing in that bar together in college, and he moved down to Florida and wasn't really having a great time down there. So we were keeping in touch together and telling what I was up to. And it's like, hey man, I'm still playing guitar. I'm going to play at this coffee house next week. You should really come up. We should keep playing together. And he moved back to Des Moines, and we kept playing guitar together. So he and I, we kind of called ourselves a band already. We're out. And when we actually started booking, we had a couple of different like percussionists with us. So it was like a trio, but we never had anybody really click with us like as a pro band. Like, wow, we're an actual band that's good enough to play other places besides just coffee houses or the bars of our friends. We had this guy join us from Ankeny, Iowa, who's been with us ever since, named Lyle Hogue, our bass player, and he's been with us since like 1998, I think. And when that guy joined our band, it was like, wow, this is a real musician. He was in like bands that toured and stuff, and so it was like, we must be pretty good because we got this guy with us. So that's when things kind of got serious for us, honestly, when we had somebody that was way better than we were and kind of made us better.
What was it like after forming? Like, what was your first gig like?
I can remember throwing up in the parking lot at Flanagan's where Mike and I played this Irish bar. The crowd was really drunk usually most nights by the time we start playing, so they weren't always nice or encouraging to two guys that were kind of figuring it out on the spot. And so I can remember, Mike and I'd be behind the bar and in the parking lot, and I'd be throwing up from nerves. And it's like, we really want to do this, right? This is still fun, right? And then we'd go in and play the show, and actually, it was still fun. But yeah, I can remember just the nerves of like, even kind of question myself as, what the hell am I doing? I've got a degree in history, and I'm gonna go try and do this.
Name for the band was called Brother Trucker. Where did you get the name for that? Like after forming the band, everything has come together.
Yep. I really wish there was a cool story with that. There's not. We didn't really have a name when we played. Actually, when we played in Davenport, Mike and I, my best buddy, like in junior high school, had a pretend band where we didn't play instruments, but we acted like we did because we were 12 and 13. We called ourselves Clyde. I was Clyde, and I had a Boston Terrier dog that had this rubber bone, and we were Clyde and the Red Rubber Bone Band. So the first couple times we booked, we were called Clyde and the Red Rubber Bone Band. It was way too long to put in print, and the first couple of times we saw ourselves in the newspaper playing someplace, it would just say Clyde and the Bone. So it was like, well, that's not going to work. So going back to how we got Brother Trucker, I always had tons of music books of different artists that I liked in my house. And one guy that, if you're going to try to finger pick on an acoustic guitar, you're eventually going to cross James Taylor, this kind of folk singer. Great finger picker. And he had an album out called Flag. And on that album was a song called Brother Trucker. And it was always, that book was out. I don't even know if I listened to the song for years. I don't think I ever heard the song, but we called our band Brother Trucker for years before I actually listened to the song. But I remember, and then Bill Rosner, a fella was living with us at the time, and sometimes we would refer to each other, more him, we would call him Brother Trucker than us, but hey, Brother Trucker, how you doing? Or right on, Brother Trucker, how are you? And it just was a phrase. I wrote a song called Brother Trucker at the time that had nothing to do with the James Taylor song, because like I said, I didn't even listen to it. But when we played in Des Moines, making a long story longer, but you asked.
No, it's fine.
We played at that place, Java Joe's. We played 3 songs. I can tell you what 3 songs they were. We played a Nirvana song, and we played 2 songs by a band called Pearl Jam, because we weren't going to play my songs. They weren't good enough to play out yet. And we put our name down as TLC, which was also the name of an R&B group at the time, but we thought it was funny to call ourselves after this TLC, but we called ourselves Taste Like Chicken. So we were TLC for one night, and then the next time that we actually booked, it's like, we're not going to be TLC. Let's say Brother Trucker again. What the hell? So we just put Brother Trucker down, and here we are, honest to God, like almost 30 years later, we still have that name, and people think like, you must really like that name, and it's like we put almost zero thought into it.
It worked so well, you just stuck with it.
It branded us, we were those trucker guys forever after that. So, we played so long underneath that name around Des Moines that once it was stuck, it would have hurt us to probably try to change it, because we'd almost be starting over with our name again. So we just kept it because it was easy, and we kind of remembered it easy too, I guess.
What's it like playing with the band and everything?
It's fun. It has its ups and downs, but they're mostly all ups. The downs are stupid things you can't control, but overall we've got it down pretty good. The guys that I play with, and Mike Fitzpatrick, my best friend, he books our band, and really we've taken a lot of the hard stuff out of it, and it's just a pretty enjoyable experience overall.
Have you made any fans like that you never met in your life?
Got a cool one for you on that, man. This blew my mind, and I actually can give you an answer to that question now, and sound like I know what I'm saying. But last week or the week before, somebody sent me a picture of my band's name tattooed on his arm. Honest to God, our second album was at this place, pictured at this place called George's Chili King. And we named the album Regulars. There's a bunch of songs like, a regular of a bar or a regular of a restaurant. And it was kind of that whole notion of people that are, your friends that show up and support you. And so Mike's girlfriend at the time, now his wife Cynthia, took this picture of the band inside George's Chili King, where it had this vintage sign. It was a really cool sign with an arrow, and it said George's Chili King. But this guy got a tattoo of the arrow with Brother Trucker on it. And so I put that out on Facebook, and I've had a bunch of people coming up to me at shows saying, "Hey, let's see the tattoo." It's like, it's not mine. It's this guy named Chad, who I don't know. I mean, don't really know that well, and he put all of his other bands that I actually really like a lot being associated with, Drive-By Truckers, the Bottle Rockets, Jayhawks. I mean, just bands that are in the genre that I do, and it's like, holy cow, he put my band on his body forever. So to me, that blew my mind. Still, I'm kind of like shocked that somebody would do that, because the same guy came up to me maybe a month before with a homemade t-shirt, but it was really nice printed screen t-shirt that said Brother Trucker with a skull on it. I said, wow, that's really cool. He goes, yeah, man, I made this myself. I said, you're awesome. That's great art. And then I saw this tattoo, and I just, my jaw dropped. I couldn't believe it. Actually, his friend sent it to me and said, you might be impressed to see this, Brother Trucker. I was like, yeah, we're pretty impressed to see it.
Speaking of fans, how would you describe to anyone who hasn't seen your show, like, how would you describe your, like, music to them?
It depends on the person asking, because some people are going to get certain terms quicker. Like if you say Americana to someone, they're going to say like, okay, that sounds like, and they'll name off a band that we might be like. Some people, it's easier to say, we just sound like a 3-chord rock and roll band, real basic rock and roll, nothing too special about it. Some people say we like old time country and blues. So I mean, there'll be shortcuts to thinking for folks like that. I like to say we're a rock and roll band, singer-songwriter band. Some people get that right away too, because we focus really hard on the lyrics, I think.
What's your most, like, memorable performance in your career, like your band, or even you at this point?
Wow, there's been a bunch of them. Really lucky. I've had some really amazing luck to get to play some shows that I can't even believe to this day that I got to play. We just opened up the Art Fest for a band called Marshall Tucker. That was pretty fun because the band played really great, and we were on a big stage, and it just felt like honestly the culmination of 20 some years together, that we really sounded great. So that's been a real recent show, but a favorite show in my head, where it's like it's still worth doing this. It's still fun to give our effort. You give your best, and you can still have a really good show. We did a show for presidential candidate Bernie Sanders in our hometown of Davenport at the Adler Theater with some other artists that we really, really respect a lot. Lead singer of Alice in Chains was with us that night. It was pretty magical, and speaking to Senator Sanders it was pretty special to us, because we're a very progressive thinking band, and we like to identify ourselves with our values. So that was a special show.
What was your favorite song that you made so far?
A couple that I'm proud that I've written, that I've communicated an idea that's gotten across well. I wrote a song, Downtown, on our fourth album, The Flyover. That was when I worked for the YWCA for a number of years, and worked with an at-risk population of homeless youth, and kind of told this kid's story. And over the years, the song has kind of morphed into the story of kids that find themselves kind of on the outside of, be it society or be outside of acceptance, And so the song Downtown over the years has really been important to me and to other people that identify with that notion. But this kid was kicked out of his house because he was gay, and his folks were really conservative and religious, and so I kind of told his story. So that'd be one. I wrote a couple. Another one on that album called Joseph the Refugee is a story about a Sudanese student that I worked with at the YWCA, and it also kind of tells a bigger story about just love and acceptance. So those are probably my top two, I'd say.
How did you meet the first kid? Was he like a family friend of yours, or how did you meet?
He was a student at a job training program that I worked at. He was in a GED program trying to get his high school diploma, but he lived on the street at that time. And he was in my class to learn how to fill out job applications and to show up on time for interviews and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, but he got the boot from his house, and we used to have to go find him sometimes. And he was taken in by some, there's just so many different people that live on the outside of society that are homeless, and so he was taken in by someone that was helping him, and that kind of tells the story a little bit too. Actually, I don't know if I've ever told the end of the story, but at some point he stole my phone at my job. It was my fault. I left something valuable on my desk at an at-risk population. It was at a time when you just didn't really keep your phone in your pocket all the time, and after that, he didn't come back to the program for a while. I mean, but that was kind of how it all ended up. Don't know what happened to him. I wish I did, but it was a tough story.
Hopefully, he sees the video.
Yeah, you never know.
Going on, like, you met some good fans. You met a bunch of people who support your band and you especially. But there probably been a bunch of like critics out there. How do you deal with that?
How do you? I've definitely heard my share of people that don't like what we do and how I go about it. And what do you do? Take it to heart. People say, and I'm on such a small level that I don't get a lot of reviews and a lot of critique like that. But the few times that people have told me what they really think about it, I can't say it doesn't hurt to hear something that you've worked on that didn't go over well, but at the same time, you also have to think it's not for everybody. Draw a pretty strong line with what I sing about, and I'm not afraid to sing something maybe that's controversial to an audience that might not accept it, because I think it's good to have the conversation start somewhere, but at the same time, I know it's not for everybody. Some people are going to turn their back on me and walk out of the room, and it happens. Yeah, and I can't say that I don't laugh or I'm glad to see them go when they go, but that it happens.
Do you say your music and your band has evolved over time?
Oh yeah, for sure. We've gotten a lot better because we've done it and been fortunate enough to keep doing it. But we've evolved just in talent level for sure, and then just we're doing it better than we've done it. And we've learned a lot, and I think I try to have a much more focused message on how we present and what I'm going to say, because I say it at shows now. We're so thankful to still get to do it after all this time. That we have less shows to do in front of us now than all of them are in the past. The number of shows that we've done are all in the past. So every show is really, really special. So even if it's a small show at like a winery where I don't know who's going to show up, I think about what I want to say that night and what story I want to tell. So it's still very important to me.
Like, is it like a genre thing, or like how else do you think you've gotten better?
Yeah, it evolved. Another way I would say musically, to answer your question, about maybe 12, 15 years ago, we added this really amazing drummer to our band, a guy named Jim Viner, who comes from rock and roll background, but more primarily he did decades before that playing in a soul band. So our music has gotten much more, I think, to the influences that I like that are R&B based, some of the more soul sounds from a record label that came out of Memphis in the 50s and 60s called Stax Records. Is just a sound that I love the stories that they tell, and that style of music is really emotional and raw, and my band can lean into that now because we've evolved to have this great player with us. Our bass player Lyle, who I told you about earlier, just two of them together have really something about a rhythm section is like whiskey or wine. It just really gets amazing after some time together, and these guys they just never sounded better.
Do you ever want to do anything more with your band, or you just want to stick to like where Iowa?
No, we scored a movie for a guy named Rod McCall, independent film a couple of years ago. That was a real joy to do. It was real fun just to kind of immerse ourselves in that process and writing music for segues and things like that. we'd always be open for that. Anything creative that lends itself to telling the story differently, and a lot of my songs are stories. So we're open to anything creatively that continues to kind of organically and truthfully tell the story.
Is there a place I could check out the independent film?
Yes, the gentleman's name is Rod McCall. The film was called Becoming Eduardo. But Rod McCall is a filmmaker out of Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. He's done a number of films, and he's used some of our songs in other movies that he's done too. But interesting guy, really, really interesting guy. But yeah, if you're ever in need of any rootsy acoustic guitar or anything that we could collaborate on, and I'd be totally open. If you do video, I'd like to talk to you about that too.
Okay, yeah, totally.
Right now, I also work with a guitarist, another guy in our band, Matt Jessen, who's a songwriter and piano player, and myself play on a side project, a smaller version of just kind of the songwriter aspect of the band.
Yeah.
With a guitarist and songwriter out of Ames called Matt Cullen. So we book kind of smaller shows like that from time to time too. So those collaborations are still happening, but I'm trying to think what we have cooking. We have a live album that's about to come out. It's finished. And then after the live album's done, I'm going to work on what's either be the next Trucker album, or I might do an album that's just kind of a culmination of everybody I've worked with over the years and do something like that. But I've got a batch of songs that I'd like to record.
Speaking of like recording albums, I forgot to ask before beginning. How did like from the beginning to like now? What was your first like recording of album like?
The first real recording that we did was at a place in Otho, Iowa, a small farm that a lot of Des Moines guys that have been around as long as I have familiarity with, or at least recognize the name. But this guy called Junior. Junior's Motel in Otho, Iowa. And we went there when we first moved, when I finally got Mike to move from Florida up to Des Moines, and we had bashed out maybe a dozen songs. The two of us and another friend who helped me sing at the time went and recorded maybe a dozen songs at Junior's Motel. And it was a gas. It was a real big learning experience. The guy that recorded us was very interesting. He had quite a history in Iowa music and had just recently or at some point been involved with working on an album for this cult leader that unfortunately became very infamous and famous with a tragedy in Texas, in Waco, Texas, a guy named David Koresh. So while we were recording our first ever recording, he was telling us about, here, let's listen to some David Koresh music. And so that was my first memory of recording. We did an album in Des Moines shortly after that with this dear friend of mine, C.W. Smith, and his friend Steve Hudspeth. They have a home studio that we cut maybe our first thing as Brother Trucker as. It was a bunch of songs. We never really released it in anything outside of, I think, a cassette tape. But then it was after that I used that cassette tape and gave it to Dave Zolo, a guy in Iowa City that had this kind of well-known record label there. And he put out our first album we recorded in 2000 with him. So that's, a lot of people start our band in 2000, but we had been releasing music as Brother Trucker, I think, since 96.
I was gonna ask, time has gone by kind of over the last, I don't know, however old you are. Basically, how do you feel about like music evolving with genre and all of that, with technology, everything kind of happening?
Oh, I can be get off my yard old guy about it sometimes, where it's like, I don't like that sound. I try to be as open as I can about it and accept as much new music and new artists as I can, and realize that, music is anything that's owned by a specific time. It's either, it's like Ray Charles, a songwriter, said, it's either good or it's bad. And so with new music technology, I try to keep a real open mind. I listen to a lot of what my kids listen to, and they've influenced a lot of the stuff I listen to, just as far as how broad and open it is. Kind of curious, what kind of music do you listen to?
Me personally, I listen to any music, but My playlist is literally whatever sounds good to me. I really have a genre I like. If I hear something I like on my dad's on the radio, I put my phone up and I put it on my playlist. If I like something that just pops on my playlist, I put, you get the gist,
Mm-hmm.
If I like it, I put it on.
Yep. That's the way we all listen to it, I think.
Is there anything else you want to share out before?
I'm real flattered that you take the time to talk to me. I've been doing this stuff for a while now in Des Moines, and it's great to stay connected in any way, So thanks for allowing me this opportunity to talk about my art and my life.
Yeah, of course. And I have this thing where you get 10 seconds to shout out any website, company, anything you want to share out, and get to go now.
Okay, I would shout out that Brother Truckers. We're old dudes, so we're on Facebook. That's where you can usually find where we're playing immediately and first. So yeah, that's probably the quick side.
Well, it was great meeting you.
Likewise, man. Appreciate it. Thank you very much for the time, man.
Yeah, of course. Bye.